April the 14th, 1865, President Lincoln decided to have a late breakfast with his family. His son Robert was on General Grant's junior staff office, and he wanted to hear what his son's experiences had been at Appomattox. His son had been there. Now, he obviously knew what had happened, but he wanted to hear what his son had seen, what his son had heard. So he delayed his cabinet meeting, had a late breakfast with the family. He also made plans to go to the theater. You might not know this about President Lincoln, but he was an avid theater goer. He was an avid theater fan. He read plays. He liked to go see plays. It was how he could be with his people and apart from his people. It was how he got away from the troubles of the war for just a short time. He had been here at Ford several times before this. So he makes plans to go to the theater. General Grant is supposed to be his theater guest that night along with Grant's wife. They will back out at the end. I'll spoil that now and say they go to visit relatives in New Jersey. They won't come to the theater that night. We'll never know what history might have been if they had attended. Major Rathbone and his fiancée Clara Harris are the young couple that will attend the theater with the Lincolns that night. That morning, John Wilkes Booth arrives here at Ford's Theater where he has played before to receive his mail. It's not an unusual thing for an actor to use a theater as his forwarding address. So John Wilkes Booth is here in the morning picking up his mail when he finds out that the president is going to be attending. He's told this by the Fords. There's nothing odd about the Fords telling Booth this. They're not conspirators, they're business people. And it's Good Friday, it's not a good theater day. They're trying to sell tickets, so they're telling anybody that's willing to listen that General Grant and President Lincoln will be here in this theater box. In fact, they're in the process, in this time of patriotic celebration, of decorating the box as you see it now, to show that it's the presidential box. Booth recognizes that here in the theater, he has an unprecedented opportunity. He knows the theater. He's known here. He'll never get a better chance. It's probably at this time that Booth's thoughts turn. It's probably that morning that Booth changes his plan from kidnapping to murder. He makes preparations throughout the day. He comes to rehearsals. He knows the play. But he comes to rehearsals and he finds a particular moment in the play that will be best for him. It's a moment when there's only one actor on stage. He'll be able to cross the stage without anyone getting in his way. And it's right after one of the biggest laughs in the play, which means there'll be a distraction. He finds a piece of broken music stand here in the orchestra pit. He puts that up in the hallway that leads into the presidential box. He'll use it as a barricade later that evening. He meets with his fellow conspirators. He assigns one man to lead another to assassinate the Secretary of State, William Seward, another to assassinate the Vice President, Andrew Johnson, and he assigns the owner of a boarding house that they've been meeting at to take a package down to her tavern in southern Maryland and to tell the tavern keeper there to prepare the guns and the other supplies that he's kept there. He'll be along that evening to collect them. He arrives at the theater before President Lincoln does. He rides his horse up Baptist Alley, the alley that runs behind the theater. For those of you that can see it, there's a door back here, backstage right. Not necessarily the door that he came through because the theater has changed a bit over the past 150 years. But that corresponds to the door he would have come in through. He comes in to find the show's already begun. He cannot cross the stage, so he goes under it. He goes through a passage used by scene shifters and comes up on the other side. He realizes that the president isn't here, and the play hasn't gotten quite as far along as he was waiting for. He goes out, around, and into the Star Saloon next door to have a drink, spend some time. President Lincoln actually arrives a little bit late. He's about a half an hour late to the show. They ride up in front, come in the front door, go up that staircase. Those of you sitting in the balcony went up. They're in the balcony, they walk along the back edge, and if you're President Lincoln, it's very hard to arrive late unnoticed. Laura Keene, the star of that night's performance, spots President Lincoln. She stops the show dead. She looks at the orchestra starts playing Hail to the Chief. The audience, Washington audience in this time of celebration, breaks into applause. Lincoln moves to the box, he doffs his cap, he acknowledges the audience. They quiet down, the show starts back up. little while later, John Wilkes Booth comes back over from the saloon. He comes in the front door. He's a famous actor. He's a matinee idol. He's a reason people come to shows, although he hasn't been in a show in a while. And they let him in for free because to their advantage to be friends with John Wilkes Booth more than it is to get a nickel for a ticket.